we're live. Giant Size Spectacular, episode number 6.
Hello.
Old school players from the Himalayas, we're here. So how are you guys doing?
Really good, really good. How about you?
Good.
Busy week.
Yeah, I know you're doing your top secret work over there.
Yeah.
When is it not? This is a good wrap up to a busy week, though.
Yeah.
Talk about things that we love instead of things that we have to take care of.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And a good place to start with that, I think, Peter, you've got a gym there, and I need to learn more about that.
So I'm trying to make myself more informed for this stream, for this show, and I'm like, I gotta step it up. So I gotta be reading a bit more. So I've had this on my shelf for quite some time now. Gil Kane's Black Mark. So I've been trying to get through this one for a while, and I've now finally made some good progress. But this was originally what's the original publication date on this? I should have done more homework before we got started. But it's essentially referred to as one of the first American graphic novels that was made, and it's got a format very unlike a lot of the stuff
that's beautiful too.
That you see today.
It looks like a combination between a pulp book and a comic.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, it definitely has a lot of text, sort of outside of the images. I mean, unlike your traditional comic, and in a lot of ways, it can be read independently. Like as I go through it, I find there's whole blocks of text I'll get through without even referencing some of the images. That's maybe one thing that I've noticed is that the images don't necessarily move the story along so much as they're just there to really just illustrate the story. Right? Makes sense. It's also really cool how the lettering, there's no hand lettering behind it. It's like one of the...
Oh, you're right.
I've ever seen just Helvetica in the speech bubbles as well, which makes it a little weird to read. Like it's almost kind of like amateurish, it feels in some ways, but it's not. I mean, like I say, it's really one of the first. So I mean, it almost feels like they were trying to really move away and turn the comics into something a bit more polished and turn it into something else. But I've been enjoying it a lot so far. It's definitely got that it's that sort of genre that I don't know what the proper name for it is, but whatever He-Man is, right? You got or Conan,
like a sword and sorcery.
It's like sword and sorcery, but there's
kind of like high fantasy. What would you call it? High adventure,
but with science fiction
going in there too. You know, it's like
with science fiction, right?
Yeah, science fiction, but I don't know. Right. He-Man always just had that thing where it's like he's got a sword, but they also got lasers, and they're riding around on horses and covered wagons, but they got hovercrafts and teleportation, and it's like.
Yeah. So that feel like it sounds kind of like the John Carter of Mars.
Yeah,
there you go.
Which was kind of in that same way, where it's a pulp action, science fiction, and then of course they had swords.
No, you hit it right there. That's probably more what it feels akin to, and it's pretty violent and it's pretty graphic. I mean, there's some points where I was just like, oh, geez, this is some Game of Thrones kind of stuff. But I mean, compared to the other stuff that was going on back in the day, like Conan, it is really pretty tame. But I just like it because it's just all Gil Kane. It's just non-stop Gil Kane, and he's always been one of my favorites.
Yeah, you really can't go wrong with him. He did he was a beautiful. Yeah, he did really great work. He was, beautiful figures, all great figure work, great storytelling. Yeah, Gil Kane.
Yeah, he did. Some awesome Green Lantern work, Superman. I mean, he did some fantastic work. I was looking at Wikipedia. It says that was published in 1971.
There you go. Yeah, that's. I was going to say 72. I didn't want to mess up. Yeah, 71.
He was on Spider-Man in the 70s, and he did some great Spider-Man stuff. I mean, didn't he create Morbius? He helped create Morbius.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's right.
Yeah. I could be wrong. I think, but he definitely.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah.
It was the Atom. What I really liked him.
Oh yeah.
He had some old covers of the Atom that blew me away. Yeah, those still hold up.
I have he did a mini series, the Atom, in the 80s. I have those issues. Yeah. I have a huge boxes of comics behind me.
Yeah, no, he's always been one of my favorites. So I don't know, hopefully by the next episode I'll have this finished. I'll have a full proper wrap up. But it's cool. It's good. And I'm finally happy to
Wiki calls it a science fiction / sword and sorcery adventure.
Yeah. Okay.
Sounds about right.
I didn't know that was a thing.
The John Carter, though, I think is a good way to describe it. That Edgar Rice Burroughs.
Yeah.
Edgar
Rice Burroughs. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of it's funny because there's a lot of writers who not even always from the same era, because Edgar Rice Burroughs, and then even now I'm dropping his name, Dune.
Herbert.
Herbert. There's that. He was still in love with fencing and sword fighting and all that. So it's the kind of thing that it's funny, those kind of through lines. You kind of see where he probably had some of his inspiration, because there's not always a good reason why someone would continue to use a sword when you've got spaceships. But it's
really cool,
right?
Close to my heart. That's the kind of thing that I love, so I don't argue.
No. Yeah, that Atom stuff. Oh man, it's the one with him and Plant Man. I think that I really love. Yeah, that's great.
Look at that. That's amazing. Gil Kane on some old school Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
Did he do the cover, the infamous cover of Green Lantern where my ward Speedy's a junkie?
No, that's Neil Adams.
Neil Adams. Yeah.
Thank you.
That one's crazy. I mean, I can still remember that. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is
that's the hard traveling hero stuff.
My ward Speedy's a junkie.
Yeah, it's like, man, Speedy's having a tough go.
Oh, dude, he gets to hang out with Green Arrow, and he's going to become a junkie.
Yeah.
I gotta find that one.
Yeah, so I've been reading that. The other thing I picked up, I went to the shop and I asked them if they had any other because we were talking about the EC books, and I'm trying to find like more EC trades. I'm trying to read as many EC books as I can without spending like those crazy prices that they want for some of those big trades that they have. So they didn't have anything good.
I have some stuff. Next time I see you, I could let you borrow some stuff.
I would like that. But instead they recommended the Vampiress magazine.
Let's check that out.
You guys did one of you guys mention this?
Robert, what's this?
No. So
Is it new?
I haven't gone through it yet, but I mean it's definitely just a lot of different horror, fantasy, science fiction, a lot of TNA, a lot of Conan stuff. So yeah, a lot of just very throwback. So this is another one that I've been the guys at the shop.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I mean, it looks awesome.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. Don't miss the chilling beauty and the barbarian. So I'm just wanting to read stuff that's short. My attention span is just getting worse and worse and worse. Or it's not even so much short. I just want something. I just want a good story crammed into a small amount of space. And I've been trying to read some of the newer stuff and pick up. I was reading some Ghost Rider this week, and I was reading this Avengers Forever book. and it's not bad. Like it's got good stuff, and there's cool stuff that I want to see more of. But it's like you go through an entire book, and so little has happened. The story has advanced, just like this tiny little bit. And
well, it's like the antithesis of how Kirby and Stan Lee told stories.
right,
Like if you read the old Kirby and Stan Lee stories, I mean, like those Fantastic Four stories, man, they would be all in like one issue. You know what I mean? It's like they go from the Baxter Building to
Right.
Latveria. They go, into the middle of the earth. They'd be out in, the negative zone, and they'd be back for dinner.
And it's done with a very simple, seconds later, or meanwhile, like,
yeah,
it really drives me crazy, when it just takes them so long to get to something, or where they're just drawing it out. They're just trying to make it so incredibly cinematic, and it's, I don't know.
That's the word. They're not. It's like folks aren't making comics; they're making things for other media. They're making the books cinematic, or they're making them like a TV show. It's like, hey, you can convert this into a 22 episode, TV show. It's like, no, just give us a good adventure.
Yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways, there's books I'm reading where it feels like some of the comics. I almost feel like, Dave, you probably even know better, but they feel like storyboards in a lot of ways. Where they're just very like, okay, this is what the action would be if we were to be filming it. And he's going to turn his head, look shocked, and he turns back, and I mean, 5 panels, pages of just conversations with head turns. Like, it's not clever anymore, where they're just obviously cutting and pasting like the same figures. Like, I mean, that's great in a movie if you can have an actor like hold a pose, for like several scenes, or if like he can go from like, those night to day shots, really quickly, and it doesn't look like they moved. Like, that's great on screen, but in a comic, it's
brutal. You're just like, you're killing me, Smalls.
Yeah.
Not exciting.
No.
That's funny. I actually was thinking about that. What are we reading currently? And it kind of segues pretty well with everything that Peter is talking about, because the comic I've actually stuck to, it's comes out in graphic novel form, and it's the
nice
Falcon Sphere, which
let's get that on the. Hold that back up there, Johnny.
So this is the third in the series. The second, I don't have the first because I've got it buried somewhere. But this is a series that was conceived by, I think, Mike Mignola, and then he found one of my favorite illustrators, Warwick Johnson Caldwell. And his stuff is, it's not so Mignola-like. It's really,
oh wow,
it's it's very unique style.
Oh, I love that.
And the concept for these books that's so great is they come from, I think, a love of those old Hammer horror movies.
Yeah.
And so they're done in a very similar style of storytelling, where they're on an adventure, they're running around, they're going through some action, and they're not spending a lot of time cinematically expounding on what's going on. And so it's just, it's this really beautiful stuff.
That is gorgeous.
So it does kind of fit with the kind of stuff that we were just talking about. It's horror in a kind of 70s, almost out of time. I mean, the kind of things that I remember watching those Hammer, horror movies is you almost can't tell exactly what time period, because they're kind of leaning in on Europe being, somewhere in between. It's just kind of like it. And so it's kind of hard to describe, because as a kid, I didn't think about what time period it was. You're just kind of enjoying the story. And so with a little bit of the horror mixed in, and there's always, they followed a lot of interesting tropes almost. There's the vampire hunter who, or the monster hunter who's coming to this small town, and there's usually some innocent person caught in the middle, and so they're on their third novel, which the Falcon Sphere was the third. Our Encounters with Evil was the second, and I think Mr. Higgins Comes Home was the first one. And they're all released as a graphic novel. They're not released in individual issues. So for me, that's like the easiest way to get my comics.
You get a complete story.
Yeah,
and it feels more like
through Dark Horse. So quality's nice.
Dark Horse is always nice.
Yeah, that looked really high quality. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to Alexander Trapp. Thanks for joining us. He's a great dude. He's got a stream of his own where, I mean, he looks at indie stuff. He does some gaming. Really, really, really cool guy. Appreciate you joining us, Alexander.
Yeah.
So yeah, these gentlemen were just showing us some of the things that they've been reading. Don't know if you were on when Peter showed Black Mark, but that was, that's definitely something I want to get my hands on. Yeah, Gil Kane, old school. And Johnny, man, I hadn't seen that before either.
I try to expand a little bit, but my circle usually is adjacent. It's because I'm a fan, and
I thought that was Hellboy that you were holding up when you said.
Yeah, he does the covers, so he gets the casual fan to notice his cover. But the funny thing was, this guy Warwick Johnson Caldwell, he's done some other indie-ish, mainstream-ish. He did a Tank Girl series, and he did a Samurai Jack series. And I don't remember if I found him on Instagram first or Tumblr or way back when Tumblr was useful. And it's the kind of thing that I loved him as an illustrator and separate, but then when it combined, Magnola wrote the first of the three, and then he kind of let Caldwell Johnson take over after that, and so the last two have been all him, and they're a lot of fun. So but I'm still trying to get out there and find things that are outside of my normal comfort zone.
Yeah. I picked up actually an indie book. This is a guy. His name is. Let me not butcher his name. Oh man, I got the book is actually called Skits. So there's a book 1 and a book 2. I'll show you the artwork. It's a guy named Michael Siegenthaler. He's a indie creator. I guess for a while he worked for Todd McFarlane, and this is really a story that he put together based on just kind of a really interesting time in his life. So it's much more kind of autobiographical. So it's he went through some tough times like homelessness, and he was he'd always been an artist, and he was working some night shift job, and wasn't really able to sleep during the day, having these crazy dreams. And he basically just kind of cataloged, kind of his, these weird dreams and how they were kind of, coinciding with some of the things that he was struggling with. And it reminded me a lot of, what was the Image book? There was an Image book with a character that, oh man, and I can't even remember. Because at first I thought it was going to be a hero book, but it was like an Image book with this character, and the dude was just delusional.
Was that the Max?
Max.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it has very much kind of a feel like the Max, kind of when you're going through the story, you don't know almost what's real and what's a dream, and it kind of has that similar kind of art style with maybe a touch of Sienkiewicz with it too. So dude's a really good artist. It's it's kind of a sobering tale, but I'm enjoying the read. It's one of those things. It's kind of like the Max. When I picked it up, it wasn't what I was expecting.
Yeah.
So I knew by the name Skits, I knew that there was gonna be some stuff going on, some mental stuff going on. I didn't know what it was gonna be. I didn't know if this was just gonna be just an anti-hero kind of, you know what I mean? But it's just really just a guy working through his stuff. So that's one of the things I enjoy about comics, and I know we've spoken about that before. It's like you kind of forget that, like, and manga does this well. I mean, it's like, comics spans genres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's refreshing to get some of those tales that are really done and personal and done well, and you don't get that in mainstream stuff. So
no, you don't. Yeah, you don't. No, exactly, Alexander. There's other stuff besides superheroes. But with that said, seeing as I did not talk about John Byrne last week, which was like hard, I did pick this up at the store because I have the Fantastic Four. So this is like one of like 7 volumes.
I think I have one of those.
Do you?
I think the first one maybe.
So then you have this one. And it's called Fantastic Four Visionaries. And I want to say that I should tell us on the inside. It's so hard to, I think there's like 7 or so, because a couple of these are more like omnibus style. So there may be like 7 or so of these visionary graphic novels that make up his full run. And I mean, he had a really prolific run. I think it was over 60 years that he did the Fantastic Four. And you can really see, I appreciate it more and more now. I mean, he really has that Stan Lee, Jack Kirby style of storytelling, because I mean, he goes through so much in such a, and that's what makes it fun to me.
The Man of Steel run is very good. We've discussed that at length on here.
Hey, Man of Steel is fire. I love that. So I'm going through this because when we started talking about Byrne a couple of weeks ago, I went to grab my Fantastic Fours, and they're like parchment. They started, like, the pages started coming out of it. So I was like, I need the book. So it's like you end up buying reprints just so you can read your stuff. So that's
no, that's a lot of my stuff. I'm terrified to touch it.
Yeah. It's like turning to dust right in your fingers.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to find a way to seal them or something.
Well, I just have not. I mean, I have not done a great job, A, protecting my books the way I really should have, and B, I always read my books. So it's like I have nothing even close to mint. Nothing.
No, and I have so much stuff that's like unbagged. Like. So many, because I started drawing on the boards.
Oh yeah.
So I was I don't even know what that was about.
I felt like there was a time when David and I were getting to that point where everything was so collector driven, and this was probably the late 90s, close to when we were getting kind of done with things. And it was this idea that, like, you used to buy a comic book off the rack, you roll it up and put it in your back pocket, and you throw it in your bag, and
it was newspaper print.
Yeah.
Well,
and it was like, everything's become too precious when you have to wrap it up in plastic, and we're like, forget wrapping it in plastic. We're just gonna stack of comics and you're gonna read them.
Yeah.
Well, when like the number 18 of a book, of some random book, has got 5 variant covers, that they're expecting people to buy, and someone is buying them, it's that's collector driven is definitely the word.
That seems like that's even more of the current model. That, like, I actually did go into a comic book store today. I've been driving between my brother's house and my new house, and there's a shop in, I think it's Gardena, it might be Torrance, and I've been, I hadn't been in it, and I kind of felt bad now that I've been here a couple of months, and I'm like, I haven't been in a comic shop in a while. So I did go in, and it seemed like over half the books that were on the shelf had multiple variant covers.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was just, it's like, all right. I mean, I'm always happy when illustrators get work. And so that to me, it's like, oh, it's 4 illustrators got paid instead of just 1 to do a cover. But it's also puzzling as, like, Why so many? And are they trying to get people?
Like, yeah, are you? Do you just do? Am I picking my favorite one? Like, do I pick the one that just looks the coolest to me, and then or are they wanting you to buy all the different variants? Or yeah,
I think they want you to buy all the variants.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I know sometimes they stack the variants where like, I guess a shop will get so many, and then they'll get one specific one that's supposed to be like that. I guess they're trying to drive as the hot one, So you have to drive. You have to maybe buy 25 to get one. So then you buy 50 to get two. I've heard that happen before, and I'm like, wow, that's a gamble.
Yeah. Peter, when you were at Image, were they doing a lot of covers at that time?
Oh hell yeah, yeah. That was. I'm thinking back to like when I was there. It's when a lot of the reboot stuff was huge. So like the G.I. Joe reboot was happening, the Masters of the Universe reboot.
That's right. Image did publish
Battle of the Planets. Were we doing Voltron or Top? Someone was doing you name it, and like someone was bringing it back. I was waiting for Silverhawks, which was like one of my favorite cartoons. I'm like, I hope somebody do Silverhawks. Like, I'll do Silverhawks if no one's claiming it. Thundercats. Like,
Thundercats. Yeah.
Like everyone was doing it. So, anyways, yeah. To your point, there was variant covers like up to, and that was such a hard thing to keep track of. I was the guy who would even number some of the variant covers every once in a while. Like there was okay, there's 300 of something, and they need them to be hand numbered. And I was like, oh, hand numbered, that's really something. And they're like, yeah, you're the guy to number them. And I was like, oh shit. And like my penmanship is the worst. Like I have terrible penmanship, and for numbers don't look much better. Like my nines look like Q's. I don't know what they look like. Terrible. So every once in a while there'd be some variant covers that would go out, and I would have to number them, and they look like absolute shit. So
so where did you put the numbers? On the inside cover, on the outside? Where'd you put the numbers?
There was it would depend. Most of them would go on the outside. God, there was this one book that was it Garth Ennis. It was called The Pro. It was about like a superhero prostitute. It was really, I mean, it was pretty raunchy, and it wasn't. I didn't think it was that great. It couldn't have been Ennis.
As soon as I shouldn't be surprised by the premise when you said Garth Ennis.
I could be wrong on that, but if it was, or at least that sort of genre or style or whatever. Anyways, I had like a whole bunch of them were signed by the whole team.
Apparently, it was Garth Ennis.
There you go. Yeah, so we had to number them all, and I think I ended up getting number.
This looks terrible. She looks like a crackhead.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. There's like a condom on the cover, like she's pulling.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, and there was variants of that. Anyway, so variants were all the rage, and that was such a huge pain in the ass to keep track of. The hollow covers, the foil covers. Top Cow was probably worse with it. Especially
really?
The Witchblade stuff, the darkness, like every issue of Witchblade and Darkness, I feel like had at least 3 or 4 variant covers, and it was a nightmare to keep up with. And then there was things like you would have the newsstand editions. And then if something had like a different barcode, there'd be like the overseas editions, and then the newsstand editions, and then all these various. That's the one. If you could see any, if you go on eBay and you find like any of the numbered ones, those are mine. But
that's your hand. That's your
Peter Hauge original.
Huh?
It's a Peter Hauge original.
Exactly. I don't know why that one was the first one that I thought of, because I remember like that was one where like. I had this silver marker, and the numbers were particularly shitty on those. But it was, but yeah, there was a couple others. But yeah, the variant covers and yeah.
This is definitely not highbrow Garth Ennis work.
No. I got sure I got it around here somewhere. Yeah.
Oh boy.
The whole team signed the Pro.
Yeah. No, That's amazing too. I mean, it's funny. I took my my middle son, to a comic book shop a couple weeks ago, and he picked up some like Spider-Man comics, but it's like they had all these alternate covers, so he's just like, I mean, it's like he was just like, what's going on? He's like, is this the same as this one?
Right.
You know, and I'm just like, yeah, it is. He's like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? You know, it's like, which one am I supposed to get? And he was ready to leave. He was just like, I'm done with this.
I'm totally over this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I the other thing I just picked up was because I'm a big fan of Garbage Pail Kids and Mad Balls, like 80s stuff. And so IDW did this like Garbage Pail Kids meets the Mad Balls. Like I of course had to pick, and it's questionable, but the covers, there was like 3 or 4 variant covers, and I just picked the one that I liked the best. I'm like, oh well, this one's got Atom Bomb and Hornhead, so that looks.
Yeah. Well, my son was asking like legit questions, so he's just like, so these are all different covers. Well, if I get the book, are the other covers at least inside? I'm like, no, so it's like, so you can't get any one book and at least make sure you're getting all the covers. It's like whatever cover you got is whatever cover you got. He was just like,
yeah,
he's on to that.
Yeah. What's up, Eric the Guapo? What's going on, man?
They're preying upon that fear of missing out. Like if you're a collector, oh shit, there's 4 of them out there, so I got to go ahead and get it because that one might be the big one. That's gonna turn into the thing.
Yeah. And that was the whole thing. So like it actually upset my son. So he's just like so which cover am I supposed to pick? I'm just like, pick whichever one. He's like, it's like, what? I picked the wrong one. I'm like, bro, just pick a cover, man. He's like, I shouldn't have to pick between covers.
Yeah, no,
it's like I'm in there and the dude behind the counter, he's just kind of like, my son is just like, I shouldn't have to pick between covers. I'm like,
I completely agree. Yeah, especially if the story is exactly the same. Yeah, and if they're doing those BS covers that like don't relate to what's inside the story at all, like if it's just whatever, this is Superman looking cool, and the other cover is like Superman doing something kind of related to the story, whatever. It's like just do that. Save that for the issue. Like it doesn't have.
But then there's also the sketch covers now.
Oh
yeah. So you pay, you commission someone to draw the cover for you, draw, something,
Yeah.
I have not done that yet. Yeah.
I remember like kind of like just the unrelated, just kind of like pose covers. I think that started kind of in the 90s-ish or in the early 2000s. That was such a disappointment for me. I loved covers that had some relevance to what was happening in the story. I remember the first few times getting some of those, and then it's just like I felt betrayed. I felt betrayed. I was just like, this isn't happening in this story.
Yeah.
I gotta look up the issue, but I'm pretty sure it was not Action Comics. It was one of the team up DC covers, and when I was a kid, like I said, we would I've mentioned this before. We would get comics in the summer, and one year my mom got me a bunch of Marvel stuff, and then another year she got us a bunch of DC stuff, and I got to find it because there was a cover where this guy is this villain in some sort of like kryptonite exoskeleton suit is knocking Superman out, and an innocent bystander is yelling at Batman to help save Superman, and Batman's leaning against the wall saying, "Forget it, I won't do it." And you're like, "Oh my goodness, why won't Batman help him?" I read the comic. Never happened. It doesn't have anything to do with the story. It just
like Batman's not even in the story.
He's in it, and he never even hesitates to help.
It's Superman. That's like clickbait, before clickbait.
Yeah.
Exactly, and I think that's what kind of jarred me from really believing in DC, because I was like, that comic cover was so erroneous. It was so like it never happened. Batman was like struggling through the whole issue to help him, and they're together on everything, and I'm like, why would you put that on the cover?
Yeah,
as a kid, I just couldn't figure it out.
And you always wanted to see that scene too. You always wanted to see the scene that was on the cover.
Yeah.
But I think they did a better job of it back in the day. I mean, like, I think like these like Neil Adam covers, man. It's like, they'd have something dramatic happening, and they're usually pretty good about, giving you the payoff.
Yeah.
That you went there for, because there's nothing worse than you're like, oh my goodness, nothing even related is happening.
Well, I mean, did we see? Is there a panel of Speedy shooting up? Like,
I don't have that book, so I don't know if Speedy did shoot up in there.
Yeah, he's actually doing drugs with like these other characters in the book, and then
Speedy.
Yeah.
So
not explicitly. It's
They still had a comics code in those.
No, he actually no. They catch him doing it. That's right. They come in and then they catch him. Yeah, that's the whole thing. And then the next issue, like the next cover is the spread the splash page of the next issue is Green Arrow with Tough Love backhanding him.
That's old school.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just gonna smack you.
That's one kind of rehab, I suppose.
You'll just need a different kind of therapy after that. Oh man.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yes. No, that's for sure.
But I mean, I absolutely loved those old covers. I mean, like Neil Adams covers were always so dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Green Lantern and Green Arrow, I just thought was the coolest thing, because those dudes were always going at it.
Yeah.
I just never understood. I was just like, man, Hal Jordan could just destroy you. But
and I think that's why I liked Green Arrow, that he would stand up to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He would tell off Hal Jordan. He'd make Hal Jordan feel like a jerk.
Like, fuck, I got a yellow arrow. You watch it.
Exactly.
The funny thing is, I actually liked Green Lantern as well, but there's something about the guy who stands up to him.
And Hal Jordan, he wasn't even Wood. My dog is freaking out over here. I'm sorry. He wasn't even weak to Wood like the original Green Lantern, right?
No.
That was both Green Lantern. Alan Scott, that was like his.
Yeah, exactly.
Wood would penetrate his thing. So, like, you would think it makes sense. Oh, Green Arrow, like Green Lantern, he's got one up on him because, arrows are made out of wood. No.
DC characters always have the worst weaknesses.
Yeah. They
oh my goodness. And it's like it's yellow. So he's done.
Well, it's like Martian Manhunter, Book of Matches,
Yeah, Book of Matches, and he's definitely done. Yeah, Eric, earlier
Superman just crumbles,
Yeah. Earlier, Eric, Peter was showing a Gil Kane classic called Black Mark. So I don't know if you've ever checked that out, but it looked flipping amazing. Very, very old school, 1971. So good Gil Kane stuff. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, Gil Kane is an all-time favorite. But yeah, no, it's funny when you think about it. It's just like, this guy needs a weakness because otherwise he's unstoppable. So yellow.
Yeah. So Green Lantern was yellow. Aquaman needed to touch water every hour, right?
Yeah.
Superman couldn't see through lead. They had some bullshit weaknesses.
Yeah. And see, the dog doesn't even agree with it. The dog's like, that's ridiculous.
Pick it up. Sorry, he's like, are we walking or what? So sorry about that.
Oh, you got to take him for a walk.
In a minute, we'll go.
Poor guy.
But I'll tell you the thing about X-rays can't go through lens. So like if he has X-ray vision, so then that kind of makes sense. You know what I mean? The dude has X-ray vision. It's not going through.
Hello.
Hey there.
Alexander said Goldmember from Austin Powers would be Green Lantern's ultimate enemy. Yeah, great. Yeah, Goldmember would destroy Green Lantern. Oh my goodness. But yeah, let's see what else have you guys been looking at? I've been actually reading. I've been going through Invincible. So this is. I'm actually in the 5th volume now. You know what? I'm enjoying the pacing of the story. There was kind of the way the story started, and I'm late to the game on this. So I mean, you know, there was. I forgot one of the creators was one of the original artists for the first few episodes or first few issues, and then Ryan Otley picked up the artwork, and he does a really good job. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, I can just open up a rando page, you know, and it's, you know, it's good looking artwork. You know, the pacing sometimes is a little bit slow. The show pacing is definitely different than the pacing of the book. But I think they did a good job for the most part, you know, what they did with the show. I mean, you know, they did some of the requisite Hollywood race swapping, and, you know, when I was like, nobody cares, just tell your story. Nobody, you know, but I think they did a good job with the cartoon, and I think, you know, the books I'm enjoying. You know, I don't think I've really appreciated just what a writing machine Kirkman has been. You know, that dude has written a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Hex Allen, he has a really cool book. I mean, he's a big fan of Robotech, just like me. So he has a campaign that I backed called Nephilim Squadron. I'm waiting to get that. No pressure on you, Hex, but I'm waiting to get that. I'm really looking forward to that book.
Waiting for those rewards. That's the toughest part.
That's the toughest part, man. That's the toughest part. Trying to see what else you guys been up to. What else you guys been reading?
Who said they just saw Love and Thunder? I haven't caught that one yet.
You know, here's the challenge. I actually didn't have the same problems that most people had. Most people were like, oh, you know, the wokeness and blah blah blah. That's not what bugged me about the movie. What bugged me is that Thor's an idiot. I mean, but that's not the movie that made him an idiot. I mean, they've been doing that for, you know, for the last few years. They've been really dumbing him down, and he's just a village idiot.
Yeah.
You know, it's,
you know, as a fan of Thor, it has been a little tough watching that progression, and it you know, I really enjoyed the first 2 Thor movies, but there's something about the way they progress that character that I've had, you know, less enjoyment watching. And
can you say digress? Can you say digress? It's more like they digressed that character because they started building him.
Yeah.
And now they've kind of retarded him.
Yeah, and I'm not, you know, I wonder, for me, that's where a lot of the Marvel MCU stuff is going, where there's a classic sense of where heroes progression, and in comics, I mean, it's nice when it's a clearly defined what makes a hero, and you put them in situations to accentuate and to kind of prove that out. Because, you know, in the end, when you're talking about superheroes, they have powers, villains have powers, and you're like, well, what's making that difference? You know, and a lot of times it was always the choices that the heroes make. You know, they're doing right for the right reason, and then once you establish that, you can then get into a more complex discussion when right and wrong gets a little murkier, which is, you know, some of the best stories. But it feels like the direction of the MCU is that they've kind of lost sight of establishing these heroes as heroes and only live in the gray areas and only want to make a sort of grounded, you know, stories where you know, you don't know who the hero is or you don't really know who the villain is. And then, you know, with Thor, it was like he seems like he does the right thing most of the time, but the progression they've had on him, you kind of want him to establish the selfish Thor, you know, ignorant to the way of lesser mortals. Yeah. And once you've gotten that out of the way, you can kind of let him be more of the hero. And I don't know that's the direction that those movies want to take him, and they don't want to take.
He's more like Inspector Gadget. You know what I mean? It's just like, you know, he's gonna win the day, but he's gonna be a buffoon doing it. You know, he's
just like, in spite of everything, they turned him into Clouseau or something.
Exactly. He's the Pink Panther.
I didn't watch that one because there's just too much there's too much content for you to even, for me to even be like, because it's not going anywhere. I was like, oh, I'll watch it when, you know, eventually. But I remember it was an event when I think for all of us, when it got rolling, it was a real event to go see them in the theater. And then now that they're like, oh, now it's on TV, it's here, it's there, you go, oh, I'll catch it, you know?
Yeah.
Or not.
Yeah.
I done for the longest time catching everything, and now I have a huge backlog of stuff to watch. I got the Eternals to watch.
Yeah.
Finish Loki. I gotta finish Moon Knight. You know, there's.
Johnny said, don't even bother with Eternals. What did you say? It took you 5 times?
Yeah, I fell asleep to it at least 4 to 5 times. It was rough, and I, you know, we're definitely the kind of the, you know, it's missing the fun, and that's, you know, and I got that a lot of people look towards these Marvel movies and especially the Marvel's like TV series as a platform to explore usually their own agendas or their own perspectives. Mm-hmm. And I can appreciate that on some level if you can still give me a fun story. Sure. And I don't know that they got that close with Eternals, that it felt fun. And, you know, there's excitement, and they, you know, the special effects are beautiful, and they do, you know, some amazing job on, you know, on a lot of this stuff that as a kid, you know, you would have been, you know, in the 80s, coming from the 80s and 90s when CG was so bad. The stuff looks amazing.
You remember the Spawn movie? Oh, the first Spawn movie? Man, this like the CG fell off the rails at the end of that movie.
Yeah.
Even Blade. You know, people talk about how great Blade is, but like that Blood God scene at the end.
Oh yeah,
that's rough.
Yeah,
that's a funny story because the first time David and I saw that was at a free preview.
Oh yeah,
and that scene was done like everything's going great, and then they hit a point where they were doing this thing, and it turned into like almost an animatic. It wasn't fully realized, and I think one of the comments we wrote down was too much of that, you know, of the Blood God, and so I think they scaled it back in the final version.
I think at one point they had like they had like a title card that said Blood God here, and like everything else in that movie was great. You know, it was like, whoa, this is really exciting. It's interesting that you mentioned Spawn and Blade. I saw both of those movies on free previews.
Wow,
is that right?
Yeah, both of them, and like it was so cool because I don't know how frequently they do that now, but we used to go to a lot. If you were if you were in Pasadena, they would just approach you. You want to see a movie, and you'd be like, "Hey, a free movie!" And a lot of times we didn't know what we were watching, so we walk in there, and there's like, because I saw what was it? What was the one you really liked, John? The one Dark City. Saw Dark City like that.
Yeah.
You know, so, and that was a cool way to go watch a movie. That particular movie, because we had no idea what we were watching, you know. And saw Dark City like that, saw Event Horizon, and Blade and Spawn, saw those on free previews, and like they were just they were rough cuts, they weren't done, so a lot of effects weren't done, but it was still pretty neat, you know.
Yeah.
Man, I saw Event Horizon with my mom. That movie was so bad that like I took her hand and we just snuck into another movie. I'm like, we're not. So I was like this is my mom. She was like the sweetest lady. She would never do anything like that. I just took her to another movie.
You know what's crazy? I remember. I always think about this with you, John. I remember when I first met you at Comics Factory. You were telling a story about you were in Vegas, and it was so hot, and you just you went in to see a superhero movie, and it was so bad, but you said, "Hey, it was there." I don't want to name the movie. You said,
"I'll name it." It was Batman and Robin.
You said you just wanted the air conditioning, but you said after a while, the air conditioning, you were like, "This still isn't worth it."
This isn't worth it. It's not even worth the AC.
Yeah, well, like,
yes. Yeah, the last one. So I think it was Batman and Robin. It's the one that had Batgirl in it too.
Yeah, that one was rough.
Yeah,
I have gained a new appreciation for Batman Forever, the Val Kilmer one with Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones. So that one I've gone back and I'm like, I was too hard on you, Batman Forever.
Wow.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to go back and watch Batman Forever now.
But
I'm gonna have to watch it again.
Batman, well, because I mean, just especially
back
to the current Batman movies and just how serious they are. I mean, Batman Forever, like it's within the first 5 minutes, Batman is stuck in a safe, floating through the air that is being filled with boiling acid. It's pretty cool, with a security guard that says, "Oh my God, it's boiling acid."
Just in case you didn't know.
Yeah, right?
It's funny because like I got a lot of strange looks when I said I liked that Phantom movie, but that with Billy Zane. But I love that.
I like that movie.
That movie, it's such a comic book movie.
Yeah,
it's like literally like reading a comic. The way it moves across screen, it doesn't take itself very serious. It's got a lot of wacky ideas, and you're just like, yeah, this is a comic book movie.
David, I like that, and I like The Rocketeer.
Yeah, exactly, because I love The Rocketeer.
I wanted Billy Zane as Batman after the Phantom.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it would have been great.
And yeah, he did a good job of not taking the subject matter too seriously, but taking his role in it.
Oh yeah,
like he wasn't smirking through the thing. He wasn't acting like it was like it was something. He was totally professional about, which I sometimes can see when somebody's not really buying into.
Well, what's funny is a friend of ours, Justin, said this years ago, and I can't unsee it now. He pointed out when actors are in a movie and they're embarrassed to be in the movie, and I can see that now. A lot of times you're like, why is this guy in a Star Wars movie? And the guy's so embarrassed. He's just standing around just going, I got to say these lines and wear these boots,
You want me to what?
Yeah, space boots,
He's like, I got kids to feed.
Yeah, exactly.
Now that you guys have brought up those two, the one that I remember, I think I liked the best out of those was The Shadow.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
And I haven't seen it in so long. Now I need to go back and watch it because
I have The Shadow on DVD. Yeah, that one's a good one. I remember wanting The Ring from The Shadow so bad. There was an issue of Starlog. Was that that sci-fi magazine?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It was the first I'd seen like a prop from a movie that like you could buy that was jewelry that like a man could wear, and I was like, oh shit, I need that. I got a ring.
The funniest thing you say that is, so I worked at a movie theater the summer that The Phantom came out, and it was not popular enough of a film, but the movie theaters were giving away the Phantom ring.
Wait, the Phantom ring or the Shadow ring?
This was
the Phantom ring.
Okay.
And I had, by the end of the summer, we didn't get rid of them all. So I had like 10 of those things, and I'm giving them all to my friends, and I could wear one on each finger. They were like oddly pretty decent quality. They were, I don't know what they were made out of, and they probably.
I might, because you gave me one. I might still have one somewhere.
I was giving them away, but that was like, it's funny that you said that, because it was like they used to have giveaways at movie theaters, and so
I still have giveaways from like Lord of the Rings that they were doing, like little ring props and things like that. Yeah.
Also, okay, Eric said his little brother did get one of the shadow rings from a movie theater. That's pretty cool. I went to the wrong movie theater, apparently. I think the coolest ring I got was actually at a Comic-Con. DC had these Green Lantern rings.
The big plastic ones that no human finger is that big.
No. No.
Yeah.
I lost like 3 of them because they wouldn't stay on my finger.
I was sent a couple of those from the editor of Green Lantern. When Kevin Dooley was the editor, I was like 16, 17, and I was the kid writing letters that would show up in the back of comics.
Yeah.
So I got a letter in Aquaman. I got a letter, I think, in Green Lantern.
Oh, that's cool.
But Kevin Dooley wrote back to me, and it's on like the DC letterhead. The letterhead that they had was the coolest paper you'd ever seen, because it was all the heroes like stacked on the back. Like Superman was holding up Batman on his shoulders, who was holding up Wonder Woman, and they were all holding up the DC logo.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was on the back of the letterhead, so that when you turned it over and you just read the letter, it just looked like a really faint watermark of all the heroes on the back.
Right.
Ever. But yeah,
that's so awesome.
A letter, saying, "Hey kid, thanks for your Green Lantern fan letter. Here's a ring, use it for good," or something like that. And I was like, "That's the coolest thing ever."
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's like when like you're doing something and you're enjoying what you're doing.
Yeah.
I feel like so many folks now use comics as a springboard for other media. It's like, you're talking about embarrassed. Like I think that's one of the biggest things that really kind of bugged me about kind of the British Revolution in comics. I felt like a lot of those dudes didn't even like comics, or I'm like, look, if you don't like comics, then just keep it moving. Go do something else, but don't come into comics and destroy it.
Yeah, David and I would say that, or we talked about that quite a bit with Alan Moore. I mean, who's an absolute genius, who's made some amazing comics. But you read interviews with him, and it's like, do you even like comics? Do you even like what you don't? It doesn't seem like you do. It's very strange. Like some of the people that seem to write some of the best and most popular comics, you listen to them talk, and you think like, no, there's no way that this guy would ever write a comic. He despises it. But
he hates it, right?
Yeah, I always felt like a lot of those guys should just go write novels if that's But I felt like comics is probably easy work for them, because the characters are already established, and then they just have to go, well, I could just bend the character this way, and and then and people think like, oh well, that's really innovative change you made. I don't know, but I think that one of the terms I've always hated was comics for people who hate comics, and I go, well, don't read comics.
Yeah, it's real simple, right?
Yeah, I always hated that. I always thought it was weird, because, like I said, there's things that come out that I'm not watching because I'm like, oh, I don't know if that's for me, but I'm not gonna hate watch it. I'm just gonna. It might be something I like, but I'm not gonna sit there. Oh, I can't stand watching this whole thing. It's like, no, just.
But I'm going to watch the whole thing and just hate it the whole time.
Yeah.
There's way too much stuff out there, and life is way too short to watch this stuff.
And then all the stuff you like that hasn't gone away. You can always go back, and I have a collected box set of the Twilight Zone that I can watch at any time.
Yeah.
Of all the old episodes, because that's stuff I like.
I'll tell you what was awesome, Dave. I still remember when Priscilla. She went to, I don't know, I think she went to like Asia for like 2 weeks, and you gave me your Sonny Chiba set.
Yeah.
Now, bro, Oh man, that was I still remember that. I look back on that and I'm like, oh, that was awesome.
You got that for me for Wales. You got that, yeah. John got that for me because he
For your birthday.
how much I like Sonny Shiva, But like, yeah, I still have that, and none of that stuff's going away. So you can always just watch all the stuff you like. I think that that's why I was listening while I was working today because I was doing storyboards all day. I was listening to one of the BBC Lord of the Rings radio dramas, and I'm a weirdo because I know this is gonna sound crazy, but I prefer those to the movies. Because it's all in you. It's all the voice acting, sound effects, and everything else is in your head.
Yeah.
And I think the movies are great. It's a visual. It's incredible visual. But I find myself getting a little bored. But I listen to those radio dramas all the time while I'm working. They're like the best thing for me to listen to.
Yeah. I'm rewatching movies with my son. So we're watching Rings of Power. He's getting into it. So we're going rewatching the movies. Now he's older. He's like, able to sit. And I'm watching the end of Two Towers, and they're doing the thing. Frodo and Sam are going back and forth about like, I wonder if anyone's going to read our story and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That is done in, I think it's episode like 12 or of the BBC thing, and it's done just like so much better. Where it's to the point it's hard to even watch the movie because I'm like, oh no, this isn't right. Like, no, there's going to be so much more to it, but because that radio still on the
no, they really because they have to emphasize voices.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're orcs, they really sound. They have a specific voice. Like whenever they use the ring, the sound effect for the ring comes out, and you're like, oh, the ring is here, But like, no, I love that. But it's funny, interesting you talking about the Ring of Power. It's an interesting thing because I'm watching that now, and like I haven't watched tonight's episode, but it's getting a lot of. Well, I don't know if it's getting a lot of hate. I just hear a lot of people hating it, and I think they're just louder voices. But I just found the production value in that show was amazing, and I was like, oh, I'll keep watching. It does not look cheap at all.
No, it really does.
Yeah,
and I think.
What was that, Peter?
I said it looks better than the Hawk as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I had heard, and I should look it up, but I heard that it's like the most expensive television show per episode. But at least it's looking like they spent the money the right way. The visuals are amazing. Yeah,
they're really impressive.
And it feels like they got a pretty good pace, and they because I'm always worried that they're going to drag things out and kind of fill time. Yeah. But I'm hoping that there's enough content that they don't need to kind of drag out the series.
Yeah.
So I'm watching them.
Lord of the Rings.
What was that?
I said you could never drag out Lord of the Rings.
Well, guys, believe it or not, we're already over the hour mark.
All right.
I know.
All right, I'm gonna try to make it to a shop next week if I'm not working as crazy as I did this week.
Yes.
It's like I've been like nonstop working about stuff I can't talk about.
Right, the secret projects. It's good stuff though.
Yeah, exactly. So I really haven't left the house this week. So hopefully I can make it to a shop and then try to grab something cool.
Yeah. Well, until next week, thanks everybody that tuned in and checked us out. We're going to have a good time next week. Please tune back in and don't forget to smash that like button.
Please. Yes. And thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Good night, everyone. Have a